First and foremost, I want to give all the honors and praises and all the glory and all the honors belong to my Lord and Savior, whose name is Yahweh by Sham, Yahweh Shai Bahasham, Wahavaka Kwadash. Name of the Heavenly Father is Yahweh. His Son's name is Yahweh Shai, in who I reverence. And honors to the apostles that are in the Holy Spirit, and to the hopeful elect across the globe, and to the few, very few brothers and sisters listening and also learning in the hopes of being saved within these last days. Right? It's going to be a quick hit. It's going to be concerning binding the strong man. It's going to be concerning binding the strong man. Okay? We'll start at Mark 4, Mark 3. And we're going to go straight to... where should we start? Go straight to verse 22. And the scribes which came down from Jerusalem said, he have Beelzebub. So you had some of the scribes that were calling Yahweh Shah Beelzebub, which is what? Demon, right? And by the prince of devils cast out devils. So they were trying to call on Messiah a demon. He said he was doing no... Basically, they didn't believe the works he was doing it. They were trying to say he was casting demons out by demons, which I've never seen. Right? And he called unto them and said unto them in parables, how can Satan cast out Satan? And if a kingdom be divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand. And if a house be divided against itself, that house cannot stand. And that's why Esau tries to mess up family structures. That's why the devil, he needs anarchy. But this is how we know his kingdom is not going to stand. And if a house be divided against itself, that house cannot stand. That's why the devil also hates unity within what brothers as well. Main point, verse 27, no man can enter into a strong man's house. Right? That house is speaking of what? Our minds. And spoil his goods. Right? And spoil his goods. So what's the goods? Your mind. This wisdom. Right? Your gift. Except he first bind a strong man, and then he will spoil his house. So first he would need to bind you. What does bind mean? Huh? To hold down. Well, to captivate. Right? And the only way that would be done is through what? You being in the flesh and you not focusing on the things of the spirit. That's the only way you could be bound. Right? So I'll read that again. Excuse me. No man can enter a strong man's house and spoil his goods, except he will first bind the strong man, tie up that strong man. So this is why Esau tries to what? Push out foolishness, right? Market him and have you confused. Then he will spoil his house, right? So that's the only luck Esau has, right? That you're not focused upon this truth. Okay? So now, concerning that strong man in that house, right? Go to Matthews and 43. When an unclean spirit is gone out of a man, right? So the unclean spirit is that spirit that you once had, right? Prior to waking up to the truth. And yes, it was an unclean spirit. It was not a righteous spirit. It was a wicked spirit. It was an evil spirit. It was a foul spirit. It's gone out of a man. He walketh through dry places. Dry places. Right? Seek and rest and findeth none. So that spirit is up and down. But it needs a vessel to enter in. What's lucky about all this as well, it's just my hay fever. And it says Baba Kasha. And seeketh rest and findeth none. So that spirit, that wicked spirit that left you, it's always seeking to get back in. It's always seeking to get back in. Right? And it says, then he saith, I will return into my house, because spirits don't die. Even demonic spirits, They don't die. Even in the kingdom, is there going to be demonic spirits in the kingdom? Yes, there is. Right? But they're just going to be upon the nations. Right? If they don't do what's right. Okay. When he saith, I will return into my house from whence I came out. So that one spirit that leaves the brothers in this truth, it's always seeking to return. And the only way it can return if that strong man is bind, tied up. Right? So Satan tries to captivate your mind with distractions, foolishness, and old sin patterns. When say if I will return into my house, what's that house? See, there's key words. This links up with what I went to in Mark. Right? Then I would turn back into my house, but it can only do that from whence it says from whence I came out. So how can the unclean spirit, how can it return? The only way it can return, if you're not studious, if you're not praying, if you're not being brotherly, and if you're not reading the scriptures. That's the only way it can return back into your house, which is your body. From whence I came out, and when he is come, he findeth it empty and swept. So this is high level stuff. It says when he has come, he findeth it empty and swept and garnished. You're sweeping something, you're sweeping it to clean it out. And it says and garnished, redecorated. You know, you're moving into a new place. You have to move everything out into your new place, into your old place, and put it into the new place. So it becomes garnished. So that spirit is always there. And that spirit is what? Satanic, it's evil. And it's always looking for an opening. Right? But it says, findeth it what? Empty, swept and garnished. You know how powerful this is? Just knowing this. See, Habasha was even letting us know. That spirit that left you, that old man, should we call it the old man, is always at the door, always wanting you to come back in. Right? The old nigger. Right? And that demon is always there, that spirit, seeing if you're concentrating, if you're focusing on the truth, and if it can get in that house. Right? And findeth it empty and swept and garnished, decorated, embellished, swept with demons. And that's why I always say a chapter a day keeps the demon away, as long as you're reading. Then goeth he and taketh him 7 other spirits. But this can only happen if you're not grounded and you're not focused on the truth. Taketh 7 other. So that first spirit that left you, right, it finds your mind unoccupied upon the scriptures. So example, I always give brothers the benefit of the doubt. 2 days, all right, 2 days, 5 days, now there's a problem. No studying, no reading, no nothing, no praying. Now there's a problem. A week, a bit of more of a problem. 2 weeks, major problem. You ain't read, you ain't studied, you ain't done your videos. Now that spirit can get all up in there, because that spirit sees that and he identifies with that. Satan doesn't take any breaks. All right? Then he goeth he and taketh him 7 other spirits. 7. That one takes 7, so it brings its buddies. Right? It brings its buddies with him. 7 other spirits. So that means 8 in completion. 7 just means completion, but there's actually 8. 7 other spirits. Right? More wicked than himself. And that would be equated to what? Legion, right? More wicked than the first one. Right? And they enter in and dwell there, and the last state of that man is worse than the first. So once it brings its buddies, because demons also have regiments, just like with an army. Yeah, demons have regiments as well. So it brings its buddies. Right? And now you're in a much worse state than before. Than the first, from when you woke up to the truth. Even so shall it be unto this wicked generation. So that was not going to happen to Paul, Peter, John, Thomas, or any of the prophets that were occupied upon this truth. It said, to this wicked generation. So this would apply to certain wicked men that were not steadfast in the truth. It is a scary thing because I've seen this happen, right? Men once believed, and next thing they wake up, they no longer believe anymore. But it's more so of a process, because someone don't just wake up overnight and they stop believing. It's like a process of things start happening. They start doubting the doctrine, they start doubting Yahweh Shai, and these things happen, sadly. This is why you have to be occupied upon the truth continually, right? So I hope this is edifying. This ties in with Mark. See, we always learn something new out of these scriptures. Are we really binding that strong man? The strong man is the flesh that can overcome. Go to Romans. Whew. Come on now. Come on. This is Romans 8. Therefore now there is, you know what? Bear me just a minute. There's a couple of good scriptures I want. There's Galatians and there's Romans. Bear me just a minute. These are both good precepts. We got Galatians here as well. Galatians. Yeah, we got to bind that strong man. Alright? Check this out. Check this out. Galatians 5. Right? And 16. This I say then, walk in the spirit, and you shall not fulfill the lust of the flesh. For the flesh lusteth against the spirit. That's why we have to bind the strong man. The strong man is the flesh. The strong man is the sin. The strong man is an issue that has not been resolved. For the flesh lusteth against the spirit, and the spirit against the flesh. So it's a tug of war, as some would call it. It's a tug of war between the flesh and the spirit. The flesh just wants to get, if it was up to us, the flesh just wants to get dome all day, right? Because I'm sure that feels good, right? The flesh just wants to lay back. The flesh don't want to study. The flesh doesn't want to be brotherly. The flesh doesn't want to go out into the highways and byways and do videos, right? The flesh doesn't want to fast. So this is all about, you have to, I always say this, we could talk about the enemy, Esau, the devil, and this and that. Our greatest enemy is ourselves. That's why you have to conquer yourself first. And once you can conquer yourself in some ways, then you can teach others how to conquer themselves, then the world. And that's part of binding that strong man, the flesh, right? Habits, right? And not all, just because you have a habit, you may have a habit and may say, well, it's lawful, but it may not, it may be an old habit, something you were doing in the world. For the flesh lusts against spirit, and spirit against the flesh, and these are contrary one to another. So you cannot do the things that you would. It says they're contrary. So we've established the flesh and the spirit, they're contrary, they're opposite. They're warring against each other. Why? Because the flesh wants to do one thing, but the spirit wants to serve Yahweh Shai in righteousness. The flesh don't. Even Satanists know that. To be a high-level Satanist, what are you doing? You're just tapping into the flesh, your lower nature. But when you do that, you're bound by the strong man. And when you do that, you're captive by the devil. That's why we need to break them chains. And a lot of them chains is habits, sin patterns, and so forth. Bad habits. But if you be led of the Spirit, you are not under the law. Because when you're walking in the Spirit, you're doing things that are pertaining to the law of Yahweh Shai. Now the works of the flesh are manifest, which are these: adultery, fornication, uncleanness, lasciviousness, idolatry, witchcraft, hatred, variance, emulations, wrath, strife, seditions, heresies, envyings, murders, drunkenness, revellings, and such like, of which I tell you before, as I have told you in time past. They that which do such things shall not inherit the kingdom of the Most High. So those that do have these attributes, they're not going to inherit the kingdom of the Most High. And all these attributes are in the world. All right? But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, temperance. Against such there is no law. Because that's you walking in the law. That's you binding that strong man. And they that are Mashiachs have crucified the flesh with the affections of the lust. So we crucified this flesh. We put the flesh to death through what? What? Hold on just a minute. Let's read it again. And they that are Mashiachs have crucified the flesh with the affections and lusts. If we live in the Spirit, let us walk in the Spirit. So we have to walk in the Spirit to the best of our ability. That's how you're binding that strong man daily. We know Rome wasn't built in a day, but there's a process to this. Okay? There's a process. Okay? And this is part of binding that strong man. And I want to go to another example. Isaiah, come on. Come on now. Go to Isaiah. '59 and 3. Go to verse 5. It is such a fast that I have chosen, a day for a man to afflict his soul. So that's what fasting's for, right? Now, because you fast, does this mean you're going to be saved? No, because I see a lot of brothers doing videos now about fasting and so forth. Of course, it's good, but first, you want to get the faith bit right first. You want to make sure you have faith in Yahweh Shai, because you could fast and still not be right, right? Because witches even fast. Vegetarians fast. So our mind has to be right with Yahweh Shai. You can do as much as fasting in the world as you want, but if your mind ain't right with Yahweh Shai, it means nothing. It is such a fast that I have chosen, a day for a man to afflict his soul. That would go into what? The Day of Atonement. It is to bow down, he said, as a bulrush, a particular plant that bows down, and to spread sackcloth and ashes under him. Would I call this a fast, an acceptable day to the Lord Yahweh Shai? Is not this the fast that I have chosen, to loose the bands of wickedness, to undo the heavy burdens? Woo! Let's stop right there. To loose the bands of wickedness. The bands. Right? To loose the bands of wickedness. So what's them bands? Right? Them bands is that chain. Remember the same chain we're talking about? Binding the strong man. To loose the bands of wickedness, to undo the heavy burdens. Right? And let a press go free and break every yoke. So that's how we break what? The chains of the flesh. Right? And so forth. Okay? Is it not to deal the bread to the hungry, and thou bring the poor a cast out to thy house? When thou seest the naked and cover him, thou will hide not thyself from thy own flesh. Then shall thy light break forth as the morning, and thy health shall spring forth speedily. Because yes, we do know it helps your health. And our righteous shall go before thee. The glory of the Lord Yahweh shall be the reward. Right? So, yeah, it's fundamental also. Fasting helps. Because you may have been an individual that likes to eat a lot. That may have been your strong man that you needed to bind. I'm telling you, the longer you're in this truth, we're closing more doors, right? We're supposed to be closing more doors. That means Satan's going to use any single avenue, even the littleness of weaknesses. He's going to use, because you're shutting every other door. So he's going to use anything. Anything we struggle with, well, that's what the enemy's going to use. Alright? So that's part of binding up the strong man. Yet fasting is part of binding up the strong man. We may not pray enough. Praying is binding up the strong man. Alright? Doing the work, binding up the strong man. Alright? Because it says in Peter, the devil, as a roaring lion, seeketh whom him. Listen, go to it. Let's go to it. First Peter 5, 1 and 5 and 8. Be sober, be vigilant. So it even tells us to be sober, watchful, right? Soberly minded. Doesn't mean we can't drink. It's Saturday. I might have a little, yeah, I am going to have a little drink, Lord willing. I don't know, I might have a little Guinness, right? Guinness punch, right? But that word sober, you're soberly minded, you're observant, right? So be sober, be vigilant, watchful, because your adversary, the devil, our enemy, right? As a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour. He gives it away. Seeking whom he may devour. This is speaking about the spiritual Satan, the devil as well, and the physical manifestation. And how do we know this is true? Because we read where was it? In Matthew's 12, right? When that spirit leaves, right? And it sees that mind, your mind that is what? Garnished, swept, it enters in. So that's another example of the devil seeking who he may devour. The he's an opportunist, right? He sees the times where you may not be focused as other times, where you may be slacking. Some brothers get attacked more in the morning, because when you wake up in the morning, you may not be as clear, right? When you wake up in the morning, your thinking may not be as clear. So he can attack you then. It's different brothers, different trials, different way things happen, right? So where was I? And yes, another thing, right? We watch things, right? We may be watching different things, but again, that might even be a strong man, right? Because you got to be careful what you're watching as well. Okay? So there's many different avenues that the devil can attack us with. Right? We're going to shut off soon. Who is this steadfast? Hold on a minute. Walketh about, seeking whom he may devour. So that's what he's doing. Because the devil's an opportunist. Right? He's seeking who he's going to devour. Right? And it says, whom is this steadfast in the faith, knowing that the same afflictions are accomplishing your brethren that are in the world. So, it's not just one man going through. It's 144,000. Right? So with this, I hope this was edifying. And until the next time, Shalom to the hopeful elect. Shalom.